Hey, what's up? This is Shari and welcome back to my Dream Lab. In today's video, I'm going to give you my 10 tips to have an effective practice session. So if you want to get the most out of your next practice session, stay tuned. Alright, before I get into the tips, I want to just talk about why it's important to practice. A lot of my students, I'll ask them, how did practice go this week? And especially for beginners, they'll tell me either they didn't practice or they'll say that they were practicing singing in the car, singing around the house, singing songs, and they didn't warm up. And that's just not how to have a productive practice session. It's not gonna help you become a better singer. When you practice, there's something called muscle memory that happens, okay? When you're learning a new skill, basically, you're building new neural pathways in your brain. So what's happening is your brain is telling your muscles to do something. And the more you expose yourself to doing this, the more neural pathways that are gonna be built, and the easier it's gonna be for you to do it eventually. It's kind of like when you first learned how to ride a bike. When you first learned how to ride a bike, you probably were falling a couple of times before you were able to get that coordination. And so now you probably could ride a bike with your eyes closed. Don't do that. But like for me personally, I haven't been on a bike in 10 years, but I have the muscle memory to ride a bike if I needed to. It would be like riding a bike. Okay, that wasn't that funny. All right, so the next thing to think about, in addition to practice helping you to become a better singer, and in addition to having that muscle memory, it gives you peace of mind. So for instance, if you have a show coming up and you practice, you're gonna do great. You're gonna be very prepared because you've been preparing your body for what's gonna happen. And so that's why practicing is so important. Peace of mind, muscle memory, and like I said, you're gonna become a better singer. Okay, so now that we've talked about why you should practice, let's get into those 10 tips. Tip number 1, establish a schedule. Set an appointment in your calendar with yourself to practice a couple of times a week for 20 to 30 minutes. Now, being able to have that consistency and that repeat exposure is going to be good for the muscle memory that we talked about before. So I recommend practicing at least 3 times a week for 20 to 30 minutes of practice. Number 2, practice at a time of day that's convenient for you. Don't practice in the beginning of the day when you just woke up and you don't really have very much of a voice, okay? So give yourself time so that you can warm up, get the muscles flowing, all right? Practice at a time that's not gonna be too early where you're not waking up your neighbors and you're not feeling self-conscious about if anybody can hear you, all right? So keep that in mind when you're putting together your schedule. Tip number 3, turn your phone off or put it on airplane mode. You want to be free from distraction so that you can really have a focused effort in your practice session, okay? So don't worry about, if you got a notification on Instagram or if somebody sent you a snap or anything like that. Now it's time to just focus on singing and in a way that you're free from distraction. All right, tip number 4, set a goal. This will be a good time to refer back to like your previous lesson with your voice teacher. If she or he had notes for you, work on those things in this session. In the case that you're not working with a voice teacher, here are some things that you can think about and focus on during your practice session. I recommend just practice it when you're doing this, just focus on one thing, okay? So one thing could be focusing on making sure you're taking a good breath before each phrase. Another thing could be working on making sure that you're having that nice open space when you're singing. Another one would be maybe you want to work on runs, or maybe you want to work on sustaining notes. Whatever it is, I just say try to have one focus. Tip number 5 is like so important. Warm up your voice. Do not start singing Lady Gaga, okay, before you warm up your voice. You can injure your voice. Just like Steph Curry is not gonna go on the court without warming up first because he might injure himself, we shouldn't start trying to belt out Adele or Lady Gaga without warming up because we could potentially injure our voices. Again, this is a good time to refer back to your last lesson with your voice teacher. You might have a vocal warm-up on there. And if not, I do have a free guide on how to warm up your voice. The link is in the description box below and you can download it and get a couple of exercises to get you through your next warm-up. Tip number 6, watch yourself in the mirror. When we're in a voice lesson, you basically have that feedback of your vocal coach to tell you, all right, stand up tall, drop your jaw a little bit more, it's not open enough, right? So in a voice lesson, in a practice session, you're not gonna have that. So that's why it's important to stand in front of a mirror and be mindful of your body so you can have that body awareness, right? Here are some things to think about when you're in front of the mirror. Posture, standing nice and tall, making sure that you have your head in a way where you're feeling like you're being suspended on a puppet string, your knees slightly bent, legs shoulder width apart, good posture during the whole session. Another thing to think about is your mouth position. Are you singing like this? Ah, right? Ah. There's a big difference between how my mouth sounds when my mouth is closed and when it's open. And a lot of people don't realize that they're not opening their mouth. So definitely pay attention to that when you're standing in front of the mirror. Another thing that you can think about is your tongue position. Is your tongue too high in the back? Do you sound like right? So it makes a big difference on where your tongue is. So I don't know about you, but my tongue has a mind of its own. Practicing in front of a mirror, really getting control of my tongue helps me to have a better sound when it comes to singing, and you should try to work on taming your tongue too. So stand in front of the mirror, think about your posture, think about your mouth position, think about your tongue. All right, so tip number 7, print out your lyrics and write notes on them. A lot of my students will say, I don't know where to breathe in this song. And this is a good time to print out song lyrics and just write in breath marks so that you can know where to breathe. The idea is eventually you'll be able to commit it to memory, and then you'll just naturally breathe in that place when you're singing. You can also take notes, on what's not working out in the song and bring those notes back to your voice teacher. I'm sure your voice teacher will be really happy and impressed at your initiative taking. Number 8. Record yourself singing and play it back. Now, sometimes when we're singing, we're kind of in our heads and we're not necessarily really focused on the sound so much as like what's happening with our body. So we might miss if we're singing flat or if we're singing too sharp. Record yourself singing and play it back and take note of, is that note maybe too forceful here? Is it too sharp? Is it too flat? And then make changes as you go. If you're finding that there's something about your voice that you're not liking on the recording, that you can't fix in your practice session, again, take notes, send it to your teacher. Tip number 9, record yourself via video in your practice session. So take a video of yourself singing. This is really good when it comes to stage presence, and it also will help with if you feel overly critical standing in front of the mirror, then standing in front of a camera can be less intimidating because you can't actually see what's going on. So stand in front of the camera, practice as if you're singing to an audience, and just observe yourself and re-watch it and see what you like and see what you think can be improved. We are down to our 10th and final tip. Be patient with yourself, okay? Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to suddenly start singing like Ariana Grande or Lady Gaga or Bruno Mars or Usher or Beyonce. You're not going to start singing like them in one practice session, okay? So don't be so hard on yourself if you're not necessarily having the finished sound that you want. Just enjoy the journey. So for example, if you were finally able to get through that one phrase without taking a breath in between, that is a huge accomplishment that you should be so proud of. Or if you finally were able to get your tongue in a neutral position, or you were able to find that open space at least one time during your session, that is huge, right? The more you practice, the more consistent you are, the easier it'll come, and you'll be consistent with being able to reproduce those sounds. All right, so I have one more tip for you, and that is a bonus tip, and that is perfect practice makes perfect. Now, you probably heard the phrase practice makes perfect, but I think perfect practice makes perfect. My vocal coach told me this a long time ago. My first vocal coach told me this a long time ago, and it always stuck with me. What you do in the practice room or what you do in your practice session is what you're gonna do on stage. Is your practice going to be perfect every time? No, but the goal is to try to make it as focused and as perfect as possible. What I mean by that is stand tall. Don't slouch when you're practicing. You know, always try to make that effort to do your best. Give your best in each practice session, and you'll be able to give your best outside of your practice session. Okay, so that was it. Those are my tips for having an effective practice session. I really hope that was helpful. If you found this video to be helpful, please do me a favor and click the thumbs up button. And don't forget, if you're not already a subscriber, subscribe to my channel and click that bell so that you can be notified every time I put out a new video. Last thing is, if you don't have a warm-up, to listen to, then go ahead and download my free guide so you can know how to warm up your voice. It comes with exercises that you can download and do with me. So that would be awesome if you did that. Last thing is, let me know, guys, what are you guys gonna practice on in your next practice session? Let me know how it goes, and until I see you next time, keep dreaming with your eyes wide open. Thanks for watching. Bye.